Alright, what's up, what's good y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. Now just to make it clear, just in case you might have gotten the wrong idea from the title here, this is not my personal review. This one is completely you guys. I've just been a tad occupied for the last week or so, however the review is still very much in development right now. Now that I've just about done everything that I can in the base game that isn't just collecting Pokemon for the Pokédex, I feel like the development for the review will be a little bit faster now. And theoretically, I could wait for them to drop the events like the Global Wonder Trade system and the Shaman event and the Darkrai event and stuff like that, but in reality, I can't really imagine that any update that they give us is really going to change the overall experience of the game that much. So we're pulling the trigger. Give me about another week or so and I pretty much got you guys on that. Thank you to anybody that's being patient for that. It's on its way, I promise you. Now that the games have released, Pokemon has been pretty quiet when it comes to the actual games and its updates and even anything regarding Pokemon Legends, so we'll probably be covering this game a little more even after the review because there's still plenty to talk about. But trust me, this upcoming year we've got a lot to talk about that isn't just the remakes or Legends anymore. It's gonna get real weird. I say next year, but in reality, it's only about a month away. Isn't that crazy? Alright, let me go ahead and stop myself before I start rambling too much. This video is all about you guys. Around sometime last week, I asked you guys in a community tab to give me one good thing and one bad thing that you guys think regarding the remakes. About a week later now and everything's all nice and gathered up, so why don't we talk about what your guys' current and or final opinions are regarding Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Jumping right into things, we're going to start off with the Sheep Killer, who says, "Overall, I enjoyed my time with this game, but I have some things to say. One good thing was the Pokemon League. The battles were the perfect level of challenge that I hope we'll see in future Pokemon games. I was having a legit good time in those battles. One bad thing is that the remakes were too faithful. Honestly, the one thing I wanted out of Sinnoh remakes was for them to get rid of all the garbage from the original games, such as roaming Pokemon, the Safari game, and some evolution items not being easily obtainable. So the fact that those problems weren't fixed just for the sake of being faithful to what I think are the worst Pokemon games definitely rubbed me the wrong way. So let's start off by tackling your good side of things first. Quite honestly, I 100% agree with you right there. I think that one thing that we can all collectively say as a community is that getting our asses whooped in the Pokemon League again was nothing short of absolute joy. It's like what I said in my previous video, going into this year very early on without any knowledge of the games, I was very afraid that they were going to ease up on everything just for the sake of accommodating to the newer players. Before now, I haven't really struggled with the Elite Four since Alder, and even then, he wasn't all that hard. The only reason I struggled at all with Alder was because the Elite Four themselves were actually kicking my ass before I got there. If I'm remembering her name correctly, I'm pretty sure it was Caitlyn, the Psychic type user, that mopped the floor with me. Anyway, the point of that is, before now, it's been well over a decade since I last struggled with the endgame bosses, and it's good to feel that way again. It's good to struggle and have to think a little bit. And doing that Nuzlocke made it all the more scarier because if I lost a Pokemon in the Elite Four, I wasn't able to revive them or replace them with anybody, so I would be screwed. Rest in peace to my man's Obama Snow, by the way. Mwah, you're a real one, homie. Anyhow, yes, I agree. I very much appreciate the challenge coming back in full force. Now let's move on to what you found bad about the games. You said specifically that they were way too faithful, and quite honestly, yeah, that's pretty much just about what we've been saying for the entirety of this past year. Besides the Grand Underground and the quality of life features within the game, most of everything else is pretty much exactly the way it was before, in better graphics. And hell, even saying better graphics like I just did might set people off. Thankfully, the roaming legendaries weren't too much of a hassle for me personally, but they don't really need to exist like they did anymore. While Mesprit wasn't too much of a problem, Cresselia was an absolute hassle to deal with. If Cresselia were necessary to find before getting the National Dex, we would have had a legitimate problem. Thankfully that wasn't the case, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to catch Cresselia. I need that from a Pokédex, bro! I completely understand the intention of trying to create challenge so that you actually have to find the legendary, but legendaries are hard enough on their own to catch. We don't need to be finding them and having to trap them and keeping one Pokemon on the field so that we can do so. It's really irritating. Just saying, for a regular general playthrough, Mean Look is a waste of a slot. You also mentioned that there are some evolution items that are just straight up unattainable right now, and that right there is one of the things that also pisses me off the most. There are version exclusive Pokemon that need specific items to trade over so that you can evolve them. But you're gonna sit there and tell me that I can't find the item in the overworld? Why would you do something like that? Finding these rare-ass Pokemon in the Grand Underground is already pain in the ass enough, but you're telling me I have to pray to the RNG gods that killing them or capturing one of them will give me the item that I need to evolve it? That's ridiculous, dude. I'm having a very specific problem with this very situation right now, and I am infuriated by it, but this will definitely come back in the review, trust me. But long story short, I totally get what you're getting at when you say that these remakes are just a little too faithful to the originals, problems and all. It was a risky move doing something like that, so whether it's good or bad that they kept them so faithful is very debatable. Moving along here, we're going to talk to Blossoming Fate next, who says, I enjoyed the game a fair bit. One good thing I can say is that it's nice the game kept the challenge of the originals at the end with the League. One bad thing is that early game was fairly easy, since force experience share means that I'm going to have a hard time finding challenge with my entire team getting levels regardless of if I use them. Second good thing is that nature and ability items along with hyper training being included means that it shouldn't be too hard to make a competitive team. Second bad thing is that there isn't any obvious way to quickly level a Pokemon after hatching like the Sword and Shield experience candies unless you want to spam the battle tower and spend BP on rare candies, which wouldn't be such a big deal if not for the fact that getting a good Ditto is not particularly a likely occurrence. Okay, so there's a couple of things we can definitely break down here. We already explained why bringing back the League's challenge was nothing but a good thing, so not really anything to say there. Now your one bad thing regarding the forced experience share is definitely more than valid. I think that the primary problem with the League was that we weren't focusing that hard on our teams at all. You could totally fly through this game with one Pokemon, get to the League, and get absolutely crapped on, because the majority of the game is piss easy. There were definitely times during my Nuzlocke where I had to remind myself to switch out party members just because I didn't really have to switch them out all that often if I didn't want to. It honestly makes playthroughs pretty mind-numbing. Now as far as your second good thing, it's actually a little bit of a mixed bag there. On one hand, it is very nice to know that any Pokemon that you catch could be made at least very decent with the use of these ability items and hyper training and things like that. Overall though, battles in this game feel a tad mid because you're so rushed. Maybe I'll develop a better opinion on online battles when I start doing them a little more once I build up a real team in this game, but as of right now, the couple of battles that I have done online felt kinda rushed to me. I do recall them saying that they were gonna keep the competitive battling stuff in Pokemon Sword and Shield for the time being, and I'm truly never gonna understand that decision, but whatever, what's done is done. Now your second bad thing is something that I absolutely resonate with. If there's anything you can't be annoyed with when it comes to Pokemon Sword and Shield, it's the fact that leveling up Pokemon after hatching them was incredibly easy. During a regular playthrough, that would be something that's incredibly annoying, but during post-game, where you want to get all of your Pokemon leveled up, it's kind of annoying to have to actually train them for that long. I spent damn near 3 straight days in the Grand Underground with a Lucky Egg, and I still don't have a level 100 yet. Building a legitimate competitive team right now is taking a hell of a lot more work than it did before, and I'm not sure how I feel about that right now. But one thing's for certain, going into online battles, if I actually win, I definitely earn those, because I had to work for them, damn it. But we'll probably get back to that topic once I've done a little more online battling. As of right now, I just agree with your take. Next along here, let's talk to Skills Hunter, who says, my positive and negative would be the music themes. Some are very good, such as the Galactic Commander theme. It fills me with nostalgia and fits in perfectly. However, on the other hand, themes like the Lake Trio battle themes are just lacking compared to the originals, especially the bass in that theme. Maybe I'm a little biased here because I've always loved 4th gen music the most when it came to Pokemon, but quite honestly, I've never really had a problem with the themes. Although there was one song that really didn't transition well into the remakes, and that was Route 225. I was expecting a little bit better from that one. However, even that right there became much less of a problem when I got word that I could straight up change the sounds and music to the DS sounds. It's a little jarring to play this new ass game with old ass sound effects, but quite honestly, some themes are just better on the original. But all in all, when it really comes down to it, most of the music in these games are absolutely beautiful, well crafted, some transition better than others when it came to the remakes, but for the most part, they're all good songs. Like I'll always say, if there's one thing that I rarely worry about when it comes to Pokemon games, new or remakes, it's the music. Moving along here, we're going to hand the mic over to Brendan Curry, who says, as someone who never played an OG Sinnoh game, it feels good how the presentation of the remakes was handled. The chibi style grew on me and the music is phenomenal. The Grand Underground is a great feature to keep the overworld-based game as faithful as possible. The bad thing is that with things like experience share, no HMs, and friendship out the wazoo, is that the games become too convenient for my liking. The first 5 generations had you work for things, and ever since Gen 7, goddammit Game Freak, I want to be inconvenienced. Mainstream features killed my enjoyment of the game. So as far as your goods go, I absolutely agree. I think that the presentation was handled very well for the most part. Now I say for the most part because that first look that we ever got for the games was a little rough for everybody, but they really saved it in round 2. The art style is very simple, and still very pretty at that. I enjoyed it a lot, looking at things like Eternal Forest, all the different lakes, the water looks so good, bro. I can't really complain all that much about the graphics. Don't even get me started on the Grand Underground, bro. I knew from moment 1 that we were going to be spending an absurd amount of time down there, and I was completely right. I have spent a majority of my time down there. Now, as far as your bad things go, I'll be honest, there's really not much to argue there. It's hard to deny the fact that we have been handheld and spoon-fed since Gen 6. As far as the quality of life features go, specifically the HMs, that was a good decision. Very fine, very fire. It's good to know that I can have whoever I want on my team, whenever I want, wherever I want, and I could go to any location at any given moment without having to swap team members. It's also a bonus that I could swap Pokemon on the fly just like we were able to back in Sword and Shield. Being able to switch out any team member I want at a moment's notice, absolutely fire. Maybe I don't want this team anymore, maybe I want to switch up the entire thing. I don't know. It's nice to know that I have the power though. Now I feel like saying that the mainstream features killed the enjoyment is kind of a drastic take. Yeah, the games are a tad easier and a tad mind-numbing, but you know, I wouldn't say that I didn't enjoy the games. I would be straight up lying if I said that. Even if it does accommodate just a little more to the newer and younger audiences, I'll still always have a soft place in my heart for Pokemon. Whether or not they decide to make it more challenging down the line is totally up to them. But as it is now, it could be a lot worse. It could definitely be a hell of a lot better, but it could also be a hell of a lot worse. Next, we're gonna go ahead and give the spotlight to Harmony Brown, who says, I found the game a lot of fun, even though it's definitely not perfect. I love being able to replay my original region I started with in Sinnoh. I loved all the improvements they made to old beloved features such as ball capsules, contests, letting Pokemon walk with you, etc, etc. However, I must admit, I kinda wish there was more unique additions to the game instead of being a completely faithful remake. There's really not much to argue here. I'm a 4th gen simp that enjoyed a 4th gen remake. It's really as simple as that. Now, while it didn't kill my enjoyment of the game, I would have loved it if they were to also add a couple of new things here and there. Mega Evolution wouldn't have hurt to add, a couple of new Pokemon from the other regions wouldn't have been too crazy, but I guess it's too much to ask. I don't know. The couple of new additions that they did add to this game kind of carry it. If we never got things such as the Grand Underground or quality of life features that were way better than the originals, it probably would have been a huge dilemma, and a lot of people actually might have skipped this game way harder than they probably initially thought they were gonna. Long story short, we're gonna be saying this for a very, very, very long time, but keeping things that faithful was completely unnecessary. It truly was very fun to just be a little kid again and play through these games like I remember them, but at the same time, we're grown now. We want to try a little bit new and better, not exactly the same. Especially because there might be things in the previous games that actually outdo these remakes, but we'll talk about that another day. Next along, we're going to move it over to Marcus Benedict, who says, honestly, my only complaint has to do with moving through the environment. Some places seem too narrow to navigate at first glance, and the only way I knew I could squeeze through was because I saw a Pokeball or a trainer further up. Or on the opposite end, some places seeming like they're wide enough to pass through, but then getting caught on the asset hitboxes larger than the model. The latter happens in the Grand Underground almost exclusively. I guess sometimes the camera blur looked less influenced by field of view depth perception and more like just a filter slapped on top of a camera, mainly in Eterna City. I think this is when I first noticed that. Otherwise, my expectations are sufficiently low when it comes to Pokemon for me to have been satisfied and charmed by these decently faithful remakes of the first Pokemon game I ever owned on my own system. We always remember games looking nicer than they actually were, and this nailed that for me. It's Diamond exactly as my younger self recalls. Now, starting with your good thing, it is very hard to say that these games weren't pretty much nostalgia bait. They straight up advertised it to the returning players as a return to form. And they did a damn good job too, because they had my ass pretty excited the closer these games got. However, I'm glad you brought this up because I will definitely be talking about this in my review. However, the hitboxes pissed me off to no end. Giving us free reign to run around in an environment that wasn't built that way made things a little awkward when it came to the movement. When I was in caves and stuff, I would get extremely confused because I wasn't sure if I was actually able to move through certain sections or not, strictly because I had way too much free movement and those hitboxes were way too big. There was a big moment in Victory Road where I was legitimately stuck for a hot minute because I wasn't sure if I was able to actually go that way strictly because of the hitboxes. That was a mess. And don't even get me started on the underground, bro. There were so many moments where I was running away from a Pokemon and I thought I could make it through a certain area to get away, but I ended up getting stuck. Maybe I'm dumb, but those hitboxes still make me mad. And finally, for the sake of not getting too repetitive, we're gonna go ahead and hand it over to Revenge Raptor, who says, "In short, I enjoyed it. But in long, I learned a lesson about myself, and it's that I just personally don't like faithful remakes. I would have been so much happier if they went the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire route, with redesigned characters, a reworked plot, or at least post-game plot, and the best elements taken from its corresponding sister game, in our case, Platinum. I had hoped we'd get to see the Distortion world, more Cyrus character development, and detailed cutscenes for these games. Although, of course, I'm aware my hopes for new Pokemon games are always a little too far out there. But what we got instead wasn't bad, it was just alright. It was an average Pokemon experience, and this is a bold statement from me, but I don't feel like it added anything significant to the originals. I think I enjoyed my playthrough of Platinum more than these games, and that makes me sad because I really wanted BDSP to be up there with the best, but it feels like it was only made to briefly curb us until Pokemon Legends Arceus, and for that, I can't praise them for much. Okay, this one was definitely from the heart, man. I absolutely felt that. This was a feeling that I knew damn well that I was gonna have going into these games, but long story short, they're fun, but they could have been better. And that could usually go for any game, but for these remakes in particular, there was no reason as to why they couldn't be so much better. Now, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get too repetitive when it comes to writing my review here, so I'll just put it like this. A lot of the stuff homie was asking for right now, more plot, more character development and things like that, is stuff that I was asking for way earlier in the year before we even knew about the remakes. And quite honestly, I don't see a reason as to why things like that couldn't happen. Making these games extremely faithful somehow helped it a lot, but also hurt it a lot more. And on one hand, it's super bearable because at the very least, one of my favorite generations is now available completely accessible on Switch, and that's great, that's fine, that's dandy. But I could have easily just been one of those people to just say, absolutely not, get the emulator for Platinum and call it a day. Now again, I don't want to say too much here because I have a lot of feelings that I need to delve into in the review specifically, but I'll put it like this. It's okay, but it could have been a hell of a lot better. So that just about wraps it up for this video here. Now, for those of you that didn't really get your time in the limelight, what are your guys' thoughts on the game right now? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you right in the middle with a lot of us right now? How are you guys feeling about these remakes? Tell me everything in the comment section below because you know that I'm always down there with you guys. But as of right now, I think it's about time I get back to work on that review, so I'm gonna go ahead and skedaddle on out of here. I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. And with that, I'm gonna get up out. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.